Me on site and online. Well, I see that people offline here on site can hear me. Dear speakers online, could you please give us a sign of life so we understand that you are with us and you can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much. If you could switch on your cameras because I'm going to present you. Right. Well, let's start. Our apologies for starting the session really late. We have conquered our technology in our new campus, where we have just learned how technological sovereignty is important for all of us on micro level and apparently global level. So we can connect to 5 continents presenting in this room, online and on site. I just want to make sure that Dr. Vishal Dagar is with us as well, and Dr. Evgeny Kapaguzov is with us as well. Hi. Okay, so this session actually is planned as a part of Network University BRICS and our research teams at Ural Federal University at Graduate School of Economics and Management. This is our 19th international conference on Russian regions in the focus of change. And basically, for those who doesn't know, the first ever meeting of BRICS countries took place exactly here in Yekaterinburg in 2009. And the first meeting of Network University BRICS, which unites universities from all 5 countries and going to be extended to more countries starting this year, as you know, BRICS Plus. It also happened in Ural Federal University. So we have a thematic group on economics, and while their leading coordinator is High School of Economics, presenting here, by the way. I'm sorry that audience is not visible to those who are online, but it is pretty full room right now. And Ural Federal University is part of several thematic groups. So we are involved in exchange research programs. And I would really like, being academic director of Graduate School of Economics and Management, to foster research groups and to have it as another start of fruitful programs. I would like to present our speakers today. Uh, Yana Lopatkova, Associate Professor, uh, Dr. Kazi Sohak, Head of the Lab for International and Regional Economics, Academic Head of PhD Studies, Dr. Ibrahim Al Nafra, Senior Researcher at Graduate School of Economics and Management, Ural Federal University, part of sustainability team. And I switch to our online participants, Dr. Mark Erling, Adjunct Professor, University of Cape Town, South Africa. And Mark has a very profound experience in International Monetary Forum. And we are happy to have you here as a very experienced macroeconomist.
Thank you.
Dr. Evgeny Kapaguzov, head of the Educational and Research Lab for the study of the BRICS economies, Economics Faculty of Moscow State University, Russia. Dr. Daniel
Hi all.
Barreras, I don't know if we have Daniel with us, but probably he will reconnect, but I will still present him. Associate Professor at the Institute of Economics, Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Dr. Chen Ermo, National School of Development, Institute of Global Health and Development, Peking University, China. Welcome. And Dr. Vishal Dagar, Assistant Professor of Economics, Great Lakes Institute of Management, Gurgaon, Haryana, India. Dr. Vishal Dagar visited us here in Yekaterinburg a couple of years ago. Dear colleagues, well, of course, we started later, but we'll have to keep our plan. So we start from a very um, first presentation. We would just like to have everyone on the same floor following the topic of BRICS. Change the slide, please. Well, let's have a look what is BRICS before 2024 even. That was the strategy for BRICS economic partnership announced, and there were actually three key pillars to achieve by 2025 in terms of trade, investment, finance, in terms of digital tools, innovation, and technology. And also, there was a standalone chapter on the strategy for BRICS economic partnership in terms of sustainable development. Well, do you think all these ideas were implemented? Well, unfortunately, no. But however, let's see what's happening in BRICS. I give the floor to Yana to connect and to continue presentation. Let's compare G7 and BRICS Plus. It's quite in fashion right now, especially in this part of the world.
Okay, thank you. So, dear colleagues, on the slide you can see the comparison between BRICS Plus countries and G7. We can know that today BRICS Plus are driving forces of the global economy. So we can see that countries of BRICS Plus are more than 30 percentage of territory if we're speaking about geographical aspects. If we're speaking about social and economic aspects, we can see more than 30% of GDP, more than 40 percentage of population, and also if we're speaking about resources, more than 50 percentage of wheat and rice harvest volume, for example, and around 70 percentage of the aluminum and palladium production. And in that way, if we're discussing about sustainable development goals, of course, BRICS Plus should do more in terms of sustainability and achieving 17th SDGs. Of course, if you can see in the dynamic, we see a big progress. The high income countries are on the top, especially European countries, but BRIC countries, we can see that they make an average the higher progress than other countries. So here it is. And in terms of SDGs achievements, we can see that Brazil, Russian Federation, and China, in terms of our analysis, in terms of our discussion, is the leading countries. Um, and here we would like to know that there are key features for different countries. If we are speaking about just BRICS, we can see the different focus of environmental aspects, social aspects, and economical aspects. So, for example, here in Russia, now we are focusing on establishing national standards and projects. And in the last years, we managed to establish taxonomies in the green and social projects. Also, for example, China is making a great effort in terms of green bonds and green financial market. And also, if we go back to SDGs achievements, you can see that average score for BRICS Plus is 67 points. Not so good, not so bad, as we can say like that. We can see the main progress in terms of secondary education, fertility rate, mobile broad subscription, but also we have like red zones, especially in terms of environmental aspects. And here on the slide, we can see the comparison between Gini coefficient and Lorentz curve. We can understand that, for example, South Africa, Brazil, United Arab Emirates, Egypt is quite diversified in terms of social equality. And also, if we compare countries in terms of rich and poor income ratio, we can see that South Africa is leading that rate, and in terms of inequality, yes, for sure. And maybe it is also just the open space for connection and for collaboration in terms of this ratio. And also, we can't speak about sustainability and cooperation without energy sector, without neutrality goals. And in BRICS countries, we have a lot of workers in this area. So around 80 percentage in the coal sector and around 50-60 percentage in the renewable energy and solar and wind generation. So also one more step to collaborate to work with it. And according to our research, we also analyzed non-financial reporting in BRICS countries, and we can see we analyze universities, government, and business, and we can see the a bit misconnection of focus. So, for example, if we're speaking about universities are focusing on education, development, and internal process instead of, for example, governments that most of all focus on financial aspects. So here we need to interconnect the relations between university, government, and business collaboration.
Thank you, Yana, for introduction to our session and outline for uh, further presentations, which would be covered by our distinguished speakers. I would like to set an agenda for our future development for all the countries that are presented online and offline. First of all, of course, we need to start more joint master and PhD programs and also facilitate exchange between BRICS Plus countries. So far, I have to say that, well, we have PhD student Barial, who just visited summer school in Rio de Janeiro within BRICS Network University. We also have selected students who spent one semester in Brazil, and some people are going to India and backwards. But this is not enough to know more about each other's strategy, cultural connection, and also what is very important, financial systems and monetary systems as well. So, of course, we are integrating ESG standards, and we would like to call for all the partner universities to compare our ESG standards for BRICS universities and see their specific curriculum behind it. And of course, we need to cooperate more in terms of green innovation, technology, harmonization of taxonomies, and as well as development of carbon regulation market. It is well known that we have Ural carbon polygon here, and it produces a lot of green units to compensate CO2 here. So with this start of our session, I would like to move their talk to monetarism. And we have two speakers for this. First, we have the offline speaker, and then we have online speaker. So I give the floor to Dr. Kazi Sohak, and we switch the places because of our technical issues.
Hold it all the time. Well, thank you very much, Professor Jana. It's my pleasure to be with you here. The topic is pretty lengthy, but I'll try to be very brief. I will try to connect the main dots of the history to navigate the reality. So my topic is see the monetarism in multipolar world from Britain to Kazan. I believe that monetarism is the great deception in the human history that ever we came across. The topic obviously is not the easy one, the complicated one. I cannot give you the solution. But what happening, this is what I can analyze. So let me start with the functionality of money. How we define money. So in textbook, there's a three attributes of money. The first is that it should be the medium of exchange. There is no problem with the right now all the money we have. That unit of measure or unit of account, then store value. Here is my biggest concern is here. Right now, for example, I give you an example. If I'm a farmer, I'm producing a perishable items. So if I want to need to store it, so what I will do, I will sell it and I keep this money in the future. But the value of money is going down because of the inflation. So that's the question of the social justice. So all about the statistics you have shown in the inequality, probably the monetarism is the main reason for it. Okay, second. So evolution of money, I go back to the history a little bit, like a barter system, which is the direct trade of the goods and services. Then it come to the commodity money. Like in our world, they use the dates as a money for transactions. Then metal currency, which is the precious metal, was a very popular gold and silver that dominate long time in the history. Then it comes to the paper money, which was the gold standard when the Bank of England introduced it when there was a war between the England, Napoleon times, they needed a lot of money, so they go for the gold standard. Then it comes to the fiat currency, which has no backup, just a confidence value from the government. Then it's come to digital currency. So digital currency, I will not say that it is a different money or it's a part of the fiat currency, just a different mechanism. And cryptocurrency, they call it decentralized money through the blockchain technology, but I don't know whether I should call it the currency yet because it does not fulfill the third attribute, the store value, and there is no legal tender for it. Then from Bretton Woods agreement to Kazan. So Bretton Woods the most, I think, significant event in the history of money. So what was the main outcome of the Bretton Woods policy? The creation of international monetary funds, creation of international bank of reconstruction and development, and fixed exchange rate system, and US dollar become the global reserve currency. Then uh, they could not maintain the monetary integrity because they printed out more dollar than they should be. So it was not backed by any gold. So during the time of the Vietnam War, when they needed a lot of money, so then eventually Nixon announced it that gold standard abolished. So they go for a fiat currency. That's a confidence value, which is called the Nixon shocks. So then they adapted the floating exchange rate and petrodollar systems. The abolishment of so gold as a legal tender. So gold cannot be used as a legal tender anymore. Next slide. So why US dollar remains world dominant currency? So first of all, the International Institute that historical legacy, basically that's from the Bretton Woods policy. But when the abolishment of the Bretton Woods policy, still the legacy continues because there is some alternative. First is that US dollar clearing system, which is SWIFT, Visa, Master, and American Express. Then petrodollar, most of the transaction is take place based on the dollar currency. Then geopolitical influence, meaning their military power, also connected with their dollar power, and the lack of alternative. So if you talk about the lack of alternatives, like a British pound or Australian dollar or euro, I call it them as sister currency, not necessarily as alternative. So the economy they have been paralyzed. So now why we should alternatives of dollar, de-dollarization, or the multipolarity in monetary system? So that's the point. Why? Because many economies they suffered, they have been paralyzed by sanction or military intervention. So if you go back to the history, you'll see the Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, Syria, Iraq, Africa, Libya, Kuwait, so on and on. Now I put question mark in Russia because I do not call Russia just another country, rather a rival because of their military power, not necessarily economic power. So it still is going on without a significant changes. Then According to the statistics, the USA last 100 years or less than 100 years, they have taken or undertook more than 481 military intervention around the world. Those could be solved through the diplomacy and numerous countless economic sanction and geo-economic fragmentation. So that's why there should be a balance of power in money as well for justice, global justice. But what is the statistic shows in terms of the dominance? So two statistics. One is the share of global reserve and share of global trade payments. So still you can see after all these years, US approximately 59% as a reserve currency, and their trade is 46.5. The second is euro, 20% and 32%, and Japan, British pound. So China comes fourth position. So less than 3% they are global reserve, and Chinese currency used for trade payments. And rest of the currency, all the currency together is 3%. So statistics is not really shows the multipolarity money yet. But this is a good initiative, the BRICS initiatives for multipolarity in monetarism. So far the initiative is goes like New Development Bank, Cross-Border Payment Initiative, BRICS Grain Exchange, BRICS Payment, BRICS Basket Reserve Currency, which is recently introduced in Kazan Summit. To me, BRICS Basket Reserve Currency is very promising one, and I will give the reason for it. But the main challenge among the BRICS is that trade is still very asymmetric, or there is a large deficit of some other countries. For example, South Africa has large deficit with other countries. As for the Russia and China, the trade is very balanced or symmetric. But in terms of the Russia, India, there is a big deficit of trade. And China, India, the Indian deficit of trade is about 100 billion, which is significant enough. And Brazil, in another case, is enjoying a surplus with China because they're exporting soybean and other minerals. So because of this asymmetric trade, actually the common currency may not be the feasible because there will be some dominant partner and some are not. So there is a conflict of interest here. What I see that in general, not only BRICS country, all other countries, the fiat currency under threat, a great threat. Why? Because rising inflation, loose monetary policy, currency debasement or excessive debt, lose of trust in central bank, digital currency or cryptocurrency, and geo-economic fragmentation. So because the store value, when it comes to store value, the fiat currency is failing miserably. So what is the main takeaway? What I feel? Well, you don't need to agree with my point until unless you are convinced. So I believe that restoring monetary integrity is paramount. So probably gold standard we can go back. That can gives more integrity of money and regional cooperation through inviting more members in BRICS club and expanding BRICS basket reserve currency like Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Ethiopia, so on and on. Maybe Indonesia can be a good choice. Also Turkey, though Turkey applied it but has been rejected. I really don't know. And allowing gold as legal tender in BRICS nation also can be a very good initiatives. And strengthening BRICS plus cooperation, maintaining balance or symmetric trade, and reducing internal conflict of interest among BRICS nation. So that's very briefly. Thank you very much. If you have any question, I'll be open.
Okay, dear audience online offline. Well, if you have any questions, please just give us a shout. But I think that's a very comprehensive approach that we are thinking now, and it's very interesting because I would like to switch to the next speaker, Dr. Mark Allen. And Dr. Mark Allen, could you please share your perspective on monetarism perspectives in BRICS
Yes.
Plus?
Let me see if I can load my
And
presentation.
see whether Dr. Kazi Sohaga is convincing.
Wait, I'm still having a little bit of problem. 1 second.
Sure, no problem.
Let me see how this is going to work. Window. That one doesn't want to do it. And that one doesn't want to do it. You may have to, in fact,
If you want, we
load
can start
yes,
sharing.
let me, I'm going to make one more try,
Okay,
but you're going to have to,
sure. In Russia, we say 3 times make
yes,
the best
okay.
performance.
No, you better do it.
Yeah.
You load my
Mhm.
presentation, please.
It's not widescreen, but maybe you can just switch
Wait a
slides.
second. There we go. I think I did it. Can
Not
you see my
really.
presentation? Can you see it?
Well, we see the presentation, but it's not
No,
the
okay.
presentation.
Why don't you then load it
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
although is
here it
that
is.
you or me?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that you have you loaded it? Is that the presentation?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So look, my talk is about the BRICS currency debate, which is part of the de-dollarization issue and is linked to the monetarism in a multipolar world. So next slide, please. I'm going to address 6 issues. The first is about, is a common currency, BRICS currency feasible? Next. Can a Chinese renminbi become the major reserve currency? Next. What are the costs and benefits of being a reserve currency? Can the local currency settlement work for international trade? What is Project mBridge for digital currency settlements? And finally, one more, I'm going to present another alternative for a dominant reserve currency. So let's look at the first one. I think it shrunk a little bit, but is a BRICS single currency realistic? Well, we know a lot from economics, from the optimal currency area theory, that when countries are geographically far apart, when they are different sizes, have different economic structures, different fiscal policies, and different goals, having one central bank and one common monetary policy and a single currency is very difficult to implement. So my initial feeling is that having a common BRICS currency is unlikely to work well for all members. But now let's turn to the renminbi, the next one. Next slide. So the question is about, can the renminbi be a major reserve currency? It clearly is already a reserve currency. It's held as foreign reserves. It's part of the IMF's SDR. And in this slide, you can see that the in Q4 2023, based on data from the IMF's reported foreign reserves, the US dollar is the largest held foreign reserve, followed by the euro. The dollar's at around 55%, the euro's close to 20%. And then we have the Japanese yen, pound sterling, and several smaller currencies. The renminbi is around 2%, but 20 years ago, there was no renminbis being held. The Chinese currency was not held at all as a foreign reserve. So it's growing, it's important, and clearly China is the second largest economy in the world based on GDP. It's the first largest exporter globally. So this would really raise the question, why isn't the renminbi even more important or held more widely than 2% of foreign reserves? Next slide. So one of the things is China's foreign exchange system has changed a number of times. The foreign exchange regime has changed a number of times in the past 50, 60 years. And even the current system is a float, but not a completely free float. It's considered a managed float. There's daily limits within which the currency can move, and the central bank plays a strong role in managing the currency. Next slide. Additionally, I mean, for a reserve currency, it should be in equilibrium and freely floating is the point. The other couple factors is that the capital account in China still has many restrictions. You may know that there's a onshore and an offshore renminbi, and settlements can only be made and for international transactions through the offshore renminbi in official centers. And the financial structure in China, it has the equivalent of a SWIFT, the CIPS. It has very large banking sector, a big stock market, but it's not as large and as established as the combined US and European financial sector. Let's turn to the question of costs and benefits. Clearly, benefit that everyone looks at, thinks the reserve currency is very good, is simply that it's accepted like gold, but it can be printed because it's a fiat currency. Additionally, having a large demand for the reserve currency means there's a large demand for the domestic assets in reserve currency. So it's very good for the financial sector. And because there's a large international demand for a reserve currency, the currency is likely to become appreciated. But there's also some costs associated with it. And that is the reserve currency country should not have any restrictions on trade and capital flows because the world is trading in that country. It should allow all foreign holders of the country to buy goods and financial assets in the home country. And this can cause sometimes conflicts. There can be conflicts between the domestic and the international demands of monetary policy. And of course, monetary policy should maintain the value of the currency, which usually means low inflation. Now, let's take the case of the US dollar, because there's an interesting story here. An economist named Robert Triffin highlighted some of the problems of being a reserve currency for the US dollar in 1960. And basically, he said that the global demand for dollars will appreciate the US exchange rate, appreciate the dollar, and create a balance of payments trade deficit. And that trade deficit is being created because the rest of the world wants dollars, needs dollars. And then they're going to take those dollars and invest them in the United States, their surplus dollars. Oops. And investing those surplus dollars means a big demand for American assets, financial assets, and tends to drive down the dollar interest rate or makes it lower than it might otherwise be. So here we have again this conflict of policies that being a major reserve currency can create a trade deficit, not always desirable, but at the same time creates cheap capital. And this can conflict with domestic monetary policy goals. Now next slide, let's turn to a current issue, which is using local currency for international transactions with partners. Now, look, it seems to me if two countries have balanced trade, then the use of local currency shouldn't really be any problem. However, when countries don't have balanced trade and there's surpluses and deficits between them, if you're using local currency, the surplus country is going to have to hold large amounts of the local currency of the deficit country. And it strikes me that this could create situations of great exchange risk when all currencies aren't equal. And when we look back at the days of the former Soviet Union, if I recall, because I had done some work on the Soviet Union, that there was a system of bilateral trade balancing. It didn't work out so well because you couldn't use surpluses with one partner to pay off another partner. So I'm not very optimistic about local currency, trading in local currency. But let's look to the future. Next slide. I think the future is characterized by this project mBridge, which is a digital distributed ledger technology like blockchain payments like Bitcoin, being used by central banks or central banks that have a central bank digital currency. And they would be transacting in real time for cross-border payments and foreign exchange transactions. And this should result in substantial cost savings. Now, this project mBridge has been driven largely by China, but the project started in 2021 and has had the involvement of the Bank for International Settlements, China, Hong Kong Monetary Authority, Thailand, and Central Bank of UAE, and more recently, Saudi Arabia. So it's getting a lot of traction. It's made a lot of progress. And we go to the next slide. This is something that is interesting for BRICS. And sometimes you even hear the reference to the BRICS Bridge, which is just, I think, the adaptation of mBridge for BRICS. So one of the most important things about having this electronic or digital system is that it eliminates the possibility of sanctions. There's no longer even the possibility of imposing sanctions. And all the central banks are transacting. It also requires, and I'm no expert on mBridge, but it seems to require the need for a BRICS token, like a unit of account, like an SDR, that's the intermediary for exchange rates when you're transacting between different currencies. mBridge is under development. BRICS is experimenting with it. And the only thing is all countries would have to have a central bank digital currency to even participate. So now I want to turn to my last idea, which is an old idea for a new reserve currency, and that is the SDR, the IMF special drawing rights. It's already a reserve currency. There's some $900 billion equivalent in SDRs that exist. They're used by countries as foreign reserves. And notably, the IMF manages the liquidity of the SDR and is sort of the marketplace for the SDR. However, why hasn't the SDR become very popular? Well, let's look at the last slide. Next slide. The SDR, of course, is not a real currency. It's really a unit of account. It's a combination of the dollar, the yen, the pound, the renminbi, the euro. And it removes, because it's managed by the IMF, it removes some monetary control from countries if this becomes a dominant foreign reserve. And most big countries don't like that. They don't want to give up this type of monetary control to some third party, although this might be considered the fairest way to go. All right, let me just there's a quick summary in my next slide. I don't think you can read all this, but I've tried to give a snapshot of what I've tried to say about these various issues. And this is, these are, of course, my views, but I think they characterize the way the world is going. Thank you.
Thank you very much for many insights there, Mark. I don't know if you could hear the applauses.
Thank you.
One question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. I think you very accurately present your views about the settlement of trade in local currency, which is exactly happening between Russia and India, where there is a surplus of trade in Russia to India. So, what is your proposition? What is the solution or remedies to solve this problem, you think?
Well, look, you can do a certain amount of local currency transactions, but I live in South Africa most of the time, and or you may not want to hold a lot of South African rand if South Africa is importing a lot from you, because the South African rand has not been a very strong currency in the past. So I think this M bridge is the wave of the future. And I think that having multiple reserve currencies is also the step to give, let's say, spread out the benefits. And there's been a number of studies that show that the euro and the dollar are already very dominant currencies, and the renminbi is likely to be growing in the next dominant currency. So, I think that we'll probably have these three major currencies until we get to a point where we can do some digital to do this M-bridge type of work. Ideally, my personal preference would be to use SDRs and let the IMF manage global liquidity. So the IMF would become the central bank of central banks. But I don't think politically that is ever going to fly for any big country.
Okay, thank you very much. We also have comments in their chat box. Evgeny Kapaguzov is sharing some papers about this topic from BRICS Economic Journal. I think, Evgeny, you can share afterwards when it's your turn to talk. And of course, hopefully we are all invited to publish in the journal using this opportunity. Okay, and we have to move forward with
Yes,
our
it's possible.
agenda,
It's welcome.
moving slightly from monetarism issues, because this is number one, to agree on how to trade between the countries. But then there is a question what to trade and how innovative we can be to change their current situation. So the next speaker is Dr. Ibrahim Al-Nafra with exactly the topics of innovation systems in BRICS countries. Ibrahim?
Thank you, dear Professor Jan. Okay. Welcome, guys, here, our students, and I would like to welcome our guests from online and offline. Today, my topic will be about the national innovation system dynamics in the BRICS economies, and I would like also to start from where my colleagues ended, that there are a lot of global changes that are dramatical, and we need to adapt to these changes. Let me basically to cover basic international or global changes that are driving the main economic and technological changes around the world. So after the 2008 crisis, we have seen that there was a slow of globalization around the world in terms of reducing the trade openness and the increase of the protectionism trend. Actually, this trend was basically as a result of cyclical change, structural change in the global value chain, basically led by China, where China started to increase its production of the intermediate products that were imported recently from advanced economies. And this actually changed the, let's say, the landscape of the technological progress around the world. Also, we have seen today that the main driver of the international competition today is the technological advancement, specifically in state-of-the-art technologies such as AI, IoT, blockchain technology, and biotechnology and nanotechnology. Also, we have seen recently, because of the intense of the regional and global conflicts, we started to see a geopolitical repositioning, specifically in the Middle East area. Actually, we will see later about this point. Actually, because I saw that there is a short time, here are some statistics about trying to answer the question, is it really geopolitics? Is the geopolitical repositioning define or derive the economic dynamics inside economies in terms of their international relationship, economic relationship with other countries? If we look at the Chinese, for example, we can see that China started trade geometry has reoriented toward more developing economy around the world, actually. At the same time, if we look at the USA also has diversified its import away from China toward and Middle East, and this is the new factor, actually, what I see, in my opinion. And this is more about geopolitical repositioning of the Middle East, or the biggest player in the Middle East region, specifically UAE and Saudi Arabia. The same, I think, applies for India and Brazil. I will not cover this because I have other things. If we look at the Russian case, actually, here we can see a dramatical change. Maybe Russia has like a special characteristics, economic and political characteristics. And here we can see that from only between 2022 to 2023, there was a dramatical decrease in the international trade between Russia and the European Union, for example, from 45 to 20 only percent, where the majority of the increase in the international trade was reoriented toward Asian economy, specifically China, 72%. Also, my colleagues, Dr. Kazi and Dr. Mark, have already spoken about the progress or the process of the de-dollarization. If you look at the progress of this phenomena inside Russia, we can see there is a remarkable change in the structure of the currencies of the international trade of Russia with other countries. For example, if you look at the export structure, we can see that about or around 58% of the share of the export are conducted with national currencies, ruble and other national currency, not euro, not dollar. If we look only at the international trade or export of Russia with the Asian economy, we can see the percentage is much higher. It's around 72%. The same is, or the same applies on the import, actually, but the percentage is here much higher with the Asian economy, and this is very logical if we take into consideration that Russia has reoriented its trade relationship more with the Asian economy. I have already said that now it's 72% of Russian international trade. So we have a new player now in BRICS. We have BRICS Plus. We have mostly Arab countries or from Middle East. We have Iran. We have United UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt and Ethiopia. And I see that most part of these economies have joined BRICS because not of economic but geopolitical reasons and the geopolitical repositioning wave. This is my opinion. So we can all agree as scholars and scientists that there is a global change in the global geopolitical and geoeconomic arena. So how we can be a leader in this change, how we can not only adopting a catch-up strategy like China and most of the BRICS or BRICS Plus economies. So we need, and as I have already mentioned, that the technological advancement today are the key driver of this competition, global competition. So to do this, we need to build a well-functioning, efficient innovation system. Why innovation system? Actually, we need as a country to build national, not regional or sectoral innovation system, because it's very important or essential element to achieve your independent development and to contribute to diversify your economic activities or the source of added value, which is a problem actually in most of the BRICS economy, especially in the newcomers, Saudi Arabia, UAE. They have a serious problem in the diversification of their economic activities. Innovation system basically, or national innovation system basically, include three main pillars. We have the knowledge and technology production system, and here we have the education system plays a major role. We have commercialization system of this knowledge that we produce, and actually, I have conducted a study about the efficiency of the national innovation system in BRICS economies, and I found they are doing good in terms of generating or producing new knowledge, but they have a very serious problem in terms of commercializing this knowledge into new technological solutions. Also, there is the third and most important factor, which is the regulatory and institutional framework, the rules of game, how we manage or control the process of producing a new technological solutions in our economy, where we can be maybe a leaders in terms of producing globally applied technologies. Actually, to build innovation system, policymakers have to approach. There is a narrow vision or narrow approach where you focus on catching up with other leading economies, and you look at the innovation process from a linear perspective. So we produce first the knowledge, we look for partners, we commercialize this knowledge, and then we go to the market or the mass production. But most of or all of the BRICS and BRICS Plus economy, they are adopting the linear approach of innovation, where the civil society, the social innovations aren't the focus in these systems. Uh, so we need to consider more our additional factors in terms to build a BRICS, let's say, a regional innovation system, or all actors from different domain, education, industry, and the government can play a role in building this integrated system that is oriented toward producing a new leading innovations around the world. So in this also presentation, I will look at the internal dynamics of national innovation system inside BRICS economy. I intended to cover all BRICS actually economies, but because of the limited time, I will focus mainly on China and Russia. In the 14th five-year plan in China, actually, there was a focus on transitioning from growth-oriented model to the innovation-based model. To do so, actually, Chinese government started to invest very heavily in R&D. In 2023, the investment was about $459 billion. As a percentage of GDP, we have 20.5, which is, if we take the scale of the Chinese economy, this is a very huge amount of money invested in R&D. But we have a question: do we have results of this huge investment in R&D? This is another question related to the efficiency of the resources allocated to the innovation process. Also, the Chinese government defined a specific national technological priority, because they figured out that we cannot be a leader, or we cannot catch up even with all technological domains. So we need to define the priority. And actually, this is also the case in Russia also. So they defined 6 main technological domains. And the plan was by the end of 2025, we should be a leader at least in 1 or 2 or 3 maybe. The ambition is to be leader in all of them. But if we look today at the reality of all these 6 technological domains, AI, semiconductors, quantum computing, and other domains, we can see that China doesn't lead in any domain, unfortunately. So if you look at AI, there you will find a lot of a huge number of patents or granted patents and patent applications in AI from China or Chinese companies. But if we look at the novelty and patentability and the commercial potential of these patents, there is no use or commercial use, and they cannot be compared with the USA or EU companies. In the semiconductors, we saw that there was like a huge and various competition between China, Huawei specifically, and Taiwanese company, and the USA, NVIDIA. But they managed to produce, for example, 9 nanometer semiconductor, which is a good achievement. But again, this is a catch-up strategy, not a leadership strategy. And I think, in my opinion, this is the problem with China as the main player in the BRICS or BRICS Plus group. Also, in this 5-year plan, it was mentioned that a special dynamics or strategy, let's say a philosophy of development in this country called dual circulation. So basically, the Chinese government focused on 2 main forces. The first one is to increase the export and improve the industrial base of the economy. The second one is to expand the domestic demand. But again, recently we have seen that there was a problem in the demand in the Chinese economy, and the government in China launched several initiatives to boost the demand, to keep the growth to not 2 digits. We forgot about 2 digit growth, but now to keep the growth around 5%. And until today, we cannot see or we cannot judge if these initiatives were productive or not. If you look at the structure of the national innovation system in China, we can see three main levels actually. We have national level, subsystem, and the main forces. And the national level, actually, we have the production or knowledge production system, we have the ICT infrastructure, and we have the business sector. There are a lot of initiatives actually in terms of knowledge production. China has a lot of universities and research centers. They are among the top in the world. So there is no problem, as I have mentioned already, in terms of knowledge productions. But and they have a large market and they have a very advanced ICT infrastructure. But if we look at the weaknesses of this innovation system, we will see that there are some problems in the innovation system related to, for example, the dependence on the foreign technology. And if we took the semiconductors or AI, for example, if we look also at there is a problem related to the regional disparities. There is a big and a huge difference between the West and the East of the China in terms of all, not only economic, even the technological distribution of the enterprises in China. And the most important problem is the institutions, or basically in the context of innovation process, we talk about the intellectual property system. So there is a lot of concerns about how we can protect our inventions, and if there is any feasible way, for example, for enterprises to proceed with commercializing their invention in China. Also, there is a main concerns about the efficiency of the innovation system in China is the state-owned enterprises. And here what you see in the slide is the tax subsidies rate on R&D expenditure. You can see the part of China is the highest tax rate, subsidy rates around the world. Even they are providing R&D subsidies for failing state-owned companies. And in my opinion, this affects their innovation efficiency. So they should reallocate these resources to more efficient and productive enterprises in their innovation system. Now, coming to the Russian innovation system, actually, the Russian innovation system has a very unique feature, which is the potential that is related to the human capital. And here I'm talking about the potential, not the capacity. So in Russia, there is a very high quality human capital, but the question is how we can realize this potential to be a capacity with a lot of engineers, with a lot of people holding the PhD. Russia is taking the top in terms of the number of people who they have or hold PhD. But what is the result of all these researchers? This is also a question about the efficiency here. Also in terms of ICT infrastructure, actually, Russia has some specific or strength point in a specific technological domain like cybersecurity, airspace. But again, Russia isn't a leader in these technological domains, is adopting a catch-up strategy. In 2013, I think, there was a new priority, a plan to define a specific technological domains like in China, and for each technological domain, there was like a catch-up strategy to achieve. Okay, let me move. And again, here, if we are talking about the innovation paradigm or approach, again, in Russia, they divided the innovation system into 9 stages, and this is linear approach of dealing with innovation, approaches the same problem that we saw in China. Looking at the numbers or facts related to the innovation process in Russia, if we look at the R&D expenditure, we don't see any significant change in the R&D policy actually or expenditure. If even we look before the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, so again, the percentage or the amount spending on R&D is very modest actually. Also, if we look at the high-tech export in Russia, we can see only 10% of the share of the high-tech export, but we have 23% is the share of high-tech production of GDP. This high difference between the high-tech export and high-tech production as a percentage of GDP may indicate that there is a problem about the competitiveness of these high-tech products in the global market. So that not all or major of the high-tech products are exportable. Uh, if you look at the R&D, actually, I want to focus on this point. Actually, if you look at the distribution of R&D expenditure in the Russian region, we can see a very huge disparities. For example, in Moscow, Oblast or Moscow region, there is 48, almost 50% of the R&D expenditure is located in Moscow. But if you look at our, for example, Oblast and Yekaterinburg, Sverdlovsky Oblast, we have only 2.5. Later, we will see in the statistics that this oblast, for example, here in the distribution of small enterprises carrying out innovations, we see that this region, Sverdlovsky Oblast, that has one of the lowest percentage of R&D, has the highest percentage of enterprises carrying out innovation. So I suggest that the Russian government should reallocate the R&D expenditure to region that has more enterprises conducting innovative activities. Also, if you look at there are a different kind of statistic related to IoT or technological solutions applied inside Russian regions. We have the same problem, which is the disparities. Again, there is a problem of technological dependence. Actually, this is 72% where we have foreign applicants applying for inventions inside the Russian innovation system. I will skip the Brazilian innovation system. Okay. Yes, just I want to here emphasize on the problem of efficiency, actually. I tried to measure the efficiency of national innovation system in BRICS plus economies alone, and then I tried to measure the national innovation system in BRICS plus and added advanced economies. If you look at the left plot here, for example, you can see that if we compare the relative efficiency of innovation process inside this economy BRICS plus, we can see that there are a lot of economies that are considered efficient. But when we add other economy to compare the efficiency, the use of the same input to produce the specific amount of output, and here we are talking about innovative output, we can see that only UAE can be considered as an efficient innovation country or economy in terms of producing or commercializing their knowledge productions and in terms of producing high-tech exports. Okay. Okay, let me conclude actually. As my colleagues also mentioned that there are internal, as Dr. Mark, I think, mentioned that there are also inside a conflict inside the bloc. So here we can see in the network that between India and China, we have the Galloway conflict border between Iran and Saudi Arabia. There is a very serious sectarian rivalry and competitions. We have only 3 countries that they don't have conflict with other BRICS plus countries. We have Russia, Brazil, and UAE. I suggest that this country can play a role in resolving this conflict and increasing the cooperative relationship among these countries. Finally, I want to close with Kazan. Here is a plan for the cooperations in specific technological domains between or among BRICS economies. In Kazan declaration, there was a very ambitious plan to improve the cooperations between BRICS plus economies in terms of science, technology, and innovations. And there are a specific headlines in terms of building BRICS incubators for innovation and building a national and regional plan for technology transfer among BRICS economy. Thank you, and I'm sorry for taking more time.
Thank you very much, dear Ibrahim. Well, yeah, we are running a little bit late, although it's extremely interesting topic indeed. And well, innovation always brings a lot of question about using it efficiently. And I'm afraid we don't have questions for we don't have time for questions right now. But I think Evgeny Kapaguzov is ready to continue the topic of technological sovereignty as a factor of sustainable development. The floor is yours.
So thank you very much for your invitation, and I hope I will try to present my paper in own. Just a moment, please. Just a moment. I hope you can see my paper. Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Let's make it widescreen.
So wonderful. First of all, I'd like to apologize for my English. It's very seldom can present my paper in English, and if I will have a problem with my speech, I will speak in Russian, and I hope the slides can help for all participants to know and find out what I want to say. First of all, I'd like to say that this topic is very famous in last 2-3 years in Russian Federation. First of all, I think you can understand why, and we can speak about the new reality in this sphere. And first of all, we will speak about the sanction and other restrictions in foreign trade of technological goods and technologies. And next problem is a personal restriction for our producers. We speak about the brain drain in the IT sphere, first of all. Second is a problem of burden for the import of working force and so on. And how speak in our country, we have no problem, but the problem can help us. And the last 3-2 years, the state in our country have more new laws and formal institutions what can help in the solving of problems that can not more than decades not solving. And in discourse, in official academic discourse, now all people speak not only on import substitutions, but about the leadership in technologies and about the technology sovereignty. And I think it's more as only academic word. It's a various narrative. We try to count only in official Telegram channel of Russian government in this year more than 500 speeches about technology sovereignty only in this year. And now all officials speak about the new ideology, go to the leading development, and from the catch-up development, and from the situation what we can buy everything on the global market to the possibility and opportunity to make in own. And one slide too about the interest in academic literature. It's you can see in this term was more and more often in academic literature used, but not only in our Russian discourse, in discourse abroad. For example, very big interest came from European Union and so on. And I'd like to say some words about the different sense of technological sovereignty. First of all, it's a autarky. You can see this approach in state strategy of technological sovereignty in February was adopted this year. Second, it's, for example, American approach. It's a thesis from Jake Sullivan, small yard high fence. As example, we can speak about the CHIPS Act of Biden administration, about the semiconductors sphere and so on. Third, it's a participation in global value chains and possibility to make the cooperation with different countries. And what's very, very, very important, it's control of market technology, for example, AI, nuclear energy, machine tools, equipment, and so on. And in our discourse, there are three dimensions of technology sovereignty. First of all, is resilience and sustainability as for solving the problem of infrastructure and against external shocks and so on. Second is political, and third is about effectiveness. For example, before the 22, one of the goal of our government was a supporting of export potential and producing of added value in this sphere, but now is our position about make in his own. And why we have different approaches for the sense of the technological sovereignty, we make some research project about the possibility of institutionalization of technological sovereignty in our country in context of cooperation with the BRICS domain, BRICS countries, and we have first of all, first study or first part of study, the expert survey about the perception of sense of technological sovereignty, the tools of providing and relating with effectiveness, and about the possibility and opportunity of cooperation with leading BRICS countries, for example, China, India, and so on. And we used narrative analysis, in-depth interview with experts. In general, we have more than 27 experts, and make a secondary analysis of interview of officials. And we have a first impressions of interview in academia and publish about it the paper. And we have a second part and make after the in-depth interview the analysis in different questions what was very interesting for us. And first of all, we are different approach. What's its sense of technological sovereignty from the terra incognita to autarky and cooperation? Yes, and the other points of our interest is on this slide. And what is the problem is the threat of neocolonialism of the Eastern type. For example, in car producing industry, in other industries, in, for example, in semiconductors and so on. And there are some barriers and challenges in cooperation between our countries in BRICS domain. Why, for example, we are our interest of similar countries and different problems for connecting between our countries. And all answers in our survey, we want to different in different logic. First of all, it's logic of autarky, and there are on slides some impressions of this logic. We can see this on the slides, and I think it's not need the comments, additional comments about it. Where are the most experts? More than I think about 20 experts said about the opposite opinion that we not need an autarky. Yeah, you can cooperate with our country, and even Iran, for example, can cooperate with our countries for your technological development. And the great challenge is control of key technologies, for example, in artificial intelligence, in nuclear energy, and so on. And it's the questions how we can organize it. We need to have new global, not global, but local really change, and to build a new technological bridges between so-called friendly countries and so on. And we have in general more than 10 questions in our survey, but here in my presentation, I'd like to speak about two, about the sense of technological sovereignty, and about the questions, is the people of the Republic of China established technological sovereignty? And how we can see on this slide, there are different points of views, and more experts said that rather yes or yes, and where all experts from business said that China can establish the technology sovereignty in this country. We are here the different theses about positive impressions in this question. I'd like to say that we have in general 15 academic experts, 7 from business, and some people from public and authority from government structure. And the most people said that it's need in China way for economic development. What colleagues before spoke about it, the make the cooperation and cooperation with other countries, first of all, with leaders of modern world, as USA and so on, and in some sphere, in some fields, China can solve the problem of catch-up development, and it's the achieving very, very impressible. And the opposite point of view, rather no, what is impossible in general impossible to make the technology sovereignty in one country so big as China and USA and Russia. It's impossible too, and the technologies change very often, and we can speak what some industry can achieve with technology sovereignty, but not always. And how I spoke before, there are dependency of China from global value chains and USA as a market for export. as market for buying our technologies, and we are now impossible to have a experience of China in developing of technological sphere for Russia. Why we have so more restrictions and challenges for development, and not our situation. And what's about conclusions? First of all, the problem of technologies import in Russia. It's led for new ideal games offering the independence of technological development for the global markets, and there are some different point of views from experts about the sense of technological sovereignty. There are some similar expectations. There are some logic of autarky, and we can speak about the experience of friendly countries can help in our Russian development, but not can be as institutional import with blind copying of this strategy. It's all. Thank you very much for your attention. Sorry for my English, and I hope it will enough clear about the sense of my paper, and I hope we can interest for our publications. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Evgeny. I hope you can hear applauses. It was pretty clear with the slides and articulation. Thank you very much. It was quite interesting to see different answers from respondents. And obviously, that's very much in line with the previous paper, saying about low level of efficiency in innovation, but a huge potential for innovation. By the way, we are sitting here in our new campus in Urfu, in New Koltsova campus, and there is a big technical park planned here to produce semiconductors. That is why I think we are in line, and we also plan to have here Graduate School of Economics and Management and our big partner IT Technology School, and both of these institutions will work, I believe, for technological sovereignty of Russia and beyond. Thank you very much, and we have to move forward. I would like to give the floor to Chen Ermo. Ermo, are you here? Hopeful. Okay. So because it's very important, the financial, monetary part and technological part of our life, but social, environmental health is a fundamental thing to make everything happen. Yeah. And by the way, I didn't say, but thank you very much for invitation for publications in the Journal of BRICS Studies, Evgeny. I think all of the speakers would be happy to submit. Mo, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I will share my screen. Okay, could you hear me and see the screen? Hello? Hello, could you hear
Yes,
me and
yes,
see the
yes.
screen? Okay, good. Okay, and I have to apologize is that I also have some language issues in English, so I will also try my best to make it a perfect talk. So today I am going to talk about the issues on the planetary health view to talk about the measure of equity, which will act on the nature-human health interaction. This means that we are going to develop some issues to concentrate on the measure of social environmental health to check the engines and the effects that it works on the relationship between nature health and human health, which are three major components in the theory of planetary health. And the major conclusion of our talk is we found that the traditional equity measures could not fetch the attribute that will affect the risk of nature-human health interaction, which means the risk of interaction uh, has some inner specific attributes that will not be caught by the traditional equity measures such as Gini or such as Atkinson. So we found a new one. We developed it from game theory, and we found a new one to show a better performance. And we have two usage of it. The first one is that it will reveal some of the real claims on the equity, and the other is we will find that the issues on inequity might have been something wrong or something not sufficiently right to make criticals on us countries, but we can show something new to the whole world, especially to the world of Western. So yeah. So let's start from the traditional equity measures. By the way, I work on both economics, health, and statisticals and math. So there may be some equations. I may jump them a little fast. Yeah. So traditional equity measures containing Gini, containing Steele, containing Atkinson, and also with some ancient equity measures like CVs and referees. They got a new name named Palmer ratio. So all these index is somehow with the issue of subjectivity. That means mm, it does not represent it for any global optimization. That means that um, we could not draw a best situation from a best equity state. And also, it does not specific to any certain questions because this measure are used widely for all the situations which we want to measure equity, but you know, uh, equity doesn't equals for different situations. And also, many of these traditional equity measures needs higher hyperparameters, and different hyperparameters may draw different conclusions, no matter between not only between the countries but also between but also on the timeline. So and also it will be lack of perception. That uh, I mean it will be very morse. So uh, few information could be drawn from a distribution to get a real number, and under the same real number, maybe the situation differs definitely. So I want to talk that the role of equity in our problem is that the equity will affect the natural human health interaction deeply in many views, and we can find that the resource equity, the opportunity equity, and the risk equity, uh, they they all will act a complex role and a key role in this interaction. For the resource, the medical resource, the tech resource will directly uh, take the key role when the nature harms the human health, and the capital resource means that there will be different situation for preparing for the potential harm. And time resource also related to the labor resource will force some of the people that lacking resource will not be fully covered by the health services or also. And also the opportunity equity, we mean the development space that when we talk about the carbon emission in 20 years ago, we face many challenges that from the developed countries that they say they have already controlled much, and they force us to control as much as them. However, they have developed. So this is something not so equal. And also the adaptive space is also a key issue that some of our parts could have a room to uh, I mean to move to a warmer space or to move to a cooler space to evaluate the effect of heat waves or the cold waves, but others could not. And also there are choices space and information space that the some part of the people could not know or even could not choose the optimal one because they definitely does not know them. And finally, the risk equity that part of the people is designed, or I don't mean design, I mean is will be the most likely to be the first to be abandoned, but they also face to the most exposure, and also because they have less financial assets, they have less labor opportunities, they will face less diversification, and also they will be less insurance cover. So all this means that equity acts a key role in the NH health interaction. So we will develop a new measure that will specifically face these issues to get a more precious evaluant of the equity. So we designed a three choices game that each one could select cooperation, observe, or destroy. Uh, I mean, the traditional framework just has two choices, that is, to cooperate or to not cooperate. But in our system, we add the choice destroy into this system to show that some of the people may do not want to cooperate, but they may destroy much more values if we do not give there equitable situation. So for them, uh, uh, is there anything wrong? Okay, so I will continue. So for this situation, uh, they will form a three choices game, and to solve this problem, we will get the equilibrium of the most equitable allocation. That means uh, this allocation will force the society to get the most total return, and in this situation, it the most equitable allocation could be derived, and the loss of the level of equity could be measured based on the distance between the directed distributional distance between the currently allocation and the most equitable allocation. And also, we have the mathematical expression that I will fast jump that we can just focus on the most equitable allocations expression. That the only one I want to mention is that in our system and in this theory, we have to pay something to the one who does not cooperate and also does not destroy. That means we pay something to prohibit them from destroy the other outcomes. That gives a very deeply insight of why we will need the equity. Yeah. So to show the effectiveness of our method, I will display some empirical evidence that we will measure two pathways of inequity affect the human health. The first is directly effect on the human health, and the second is climate abnormal affect human health that will be affected by the level of inequity. And we will find the conclusion from the right panel that we can show that our measure, the coherent measure, makes the best conclusion and the most stable conclusion that matches the common sense most and also does not make any confusement. Yeah. So Finally, our conclusion is that the climate abnormalities harms human health, and the inequity makes the harm more serious. And also, traditional inequity measures could not catch this attribute well, and our measure, the coherent equity measure, catches it better. And finally, we can find that the level of social environmental health measured by equity of BRICS countries is always underestimated. Further, I will show the situation that we can find that the all us countries, the BRICS countries, uh, the level of equity always takes the situation of the right side, but our measure has a convex relationship with the traditional measure. Means that uh, even we have a little higher in equity, but the situation is not so serious. So from this graph, we can see that the inequity of BRICS countries is overestimated, and the equity of BRICS countries is underestimated, which means that there may be some more information if we use a more suitable equity measures to measure the world. Yeah. So thanks for listening.
Dear Mo, thank you very much. It's a very interesting perspective supported with sophisticated mathematical model. I think there are questions from the audience. Yeah, please come here because there are some people working on the same topic. So it's quite.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So, can you hear me, Professor? Thank you, Professor. It was very insightful presentation. I would like to ask about one question regarding how did you calculate this this inequality measure, because we know Gini coefficients, for example, is based on the Lorentz curve. But how did you, and I think you criticize this approach, but how did you improve your approach? I mean, based on which mathematical equation did you use? I just wanted to ask this question. Thanks in advance.
Yeah, great question. Yeah. So I indeed I did not make so much critical on the Gini index because it works so well in the real world. But I want to say is that uh, when we design the game theory, we can explain we can solve equilibrium from the gaming engines, and each one has its own decision functions, and we have overall target functions which will optimize the allocation allocation functional series to make each one will cooperate or at least do not destroy. So finally the optimal allocation is solved from the marginal condition that we will give the one who do not cooperate but also do not destroy a level to prohibit them from destroy. So uh, so if we give everyone enough, the situation is the most optimal. And someone is less than this level, then the equity level is a bit lower. And this measure is this measure this has not been a measure. This situation is a distributional difference, and a distributional difference could be expressed as a distance in the field of mass. So finally, the distributional distance forms the equity measure. Yeah. So I wonder if I answer the question.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And you can continue. continue discussion after our session. Thank you very much. We have discussed monetary issues, technological and innovation issues, even social environmental health. We have found a lot of different shortages and perspectives, but there is one question which is, quite important for all of us. We all would like to eat something, so agricultural sustainability and climate adaptations are among their key questions. So I would like to address our last but not the least speaker, Dr. Vishal Dagar. Are you there? Yeah.
Yeah, hi.
The
Thank
floor is
you.
yours.
Yeah, thanks. So, thank you, Jana. Thank you, Jana. And here is my presentation.
If you want, we can share your present. Okay. We see it.
Perfect. So, yeah, without food, we cannot actually survive on the planet. And that is why, our economy in India is dependent on an agricultural production and agricultural sector. More than like 70% of the, economy is still based on agricultural activities. So, what exactly we require nowadays is like agricultural sustainability and climate adaptation. Because, I'm living in New Delhi and climate is actually changing very fast. And, we are getting so many things these days like pollutants, fertilizer use, and they are reducing the, agricultural, sustainable agricultural production. So I just would like to give a brief introduction that what we are doing to achieve the sustainable agricultural production, and that can be helpful for the BRICS countries. So it's a pathway for BRICS plus co-development. I gave it a name, and then enhancing food security. Of course, we are a population of 1.5 billion plus now. So, and the climate is drastically changing these days. So we need to be resilient about the climate through collaborative strategies with our other neighboring countries, and not only limited to the neighboring countries, but of course, by developing groups like BRICS and G7, G20, whatever. So, thank you again. And the agenda of like my presentation here is like I would like to introduce first of all the introduction that how and what are the measures of agricultural sustainability in BRICS Plus. So the BRICS group now, and we are including and increasing the number of participants in BRICS. Like my colleagues earlier told that the Middle East is coming into the BRICS group now. So the large number of countries are getting involved in all these activities, and so food is a very essential commodity, and we need it. So what we are doing is now we are trying to introduce some agricultural sustainable practices. Apart from that, we need to fight with the climate change variables regarding the production. One of my brother said just about the efficiency things so many times in last presentations. So what we are doing is now we are doing some efficient agricultural production with in terms of introducing some real climatic conditions, like real problematic climatic conditions. So what we need is like innovative practices and technology, of course, innovations regarding sustainable agricultural activities. We need it. Then the policy implications and collaborative framework, and the case studies with the real-time data insights. Because nowadays, we are conducting studies only with the secondary data, but we are not focusing on the primary data and real-time case studies. And apart from that, I have few recommendations. So, introduction to agricultural sustainability in BRICS Plus. What exactly is the matter is with the sustainability in agriculture sector. So the key to socio-economic stability and food security. and agricultural accounts for a significant portion of GDP and employment in BRICS plus country. Of course, if we consider like the South Africa, even our neighbor China is also nowadays doing really nice in terms of growing industrially. But again, it requires a lot of attention for sustainable agricultural production. So the countries like China, India, South African countries, Middle East countries who are like some deserted countries, they also need the focus of sustainable agricultural production. So growing needs to balance the productivity with environmental sustainability and focus on BRICS plus countries. Again, we have the focus of the countries like it's related to BRICS plus and the diverse agricultural landscape and challenges. Then we have like somewhere hills and desert and different landscapes. These are also one of the challenge, and the opportunities we need to generate out of those diverse landscape to co-development in terms of sustainable agriculture. And there are some challenges, of course, when we try to improve the productivity in a sustainable manner, then the vulnerability of climate comes in the way of developing some successful strategies. So increased frequency of extreme weather events is one of them, and then the impact on crops yield, food supply, and rural livelihood. So, most of the population still, if we talk about India, so the most of the population, more than 50% population is still living in rural areas. So, and they are completely dependent on the agricultural production. So, this is also is a kind of a vulnerability, and that's why United Nations is keep on publishing reports about the poverty and hunger in India, though it is there, but the number of hunger and poverty comes in the news, and all these platforms are really mm, you know it's a matter of worry about the government. So the resources constraints, again, the limited availability of arable land and water. I recently conducted some study in China for with the secondary data of 60 years about the agriculture productivity and the change in rural areas. So the that study was also published, but we saw the change in 60 years in China. Now they are completely shifting towards industry production instead of improving agricultural things, but they are at the same time, they have the pace of adopting sustainable agricultural production activities. So they are doing good in terms of adopting sustainable agricultural activities. Our reliance on chemical fertilizer and pesticides, of course, we are using phosphorus and the other fertilizers, which are actually uh, giving a dent on attaining the sustainable agriculture production. And then the economic and socio-economic factors, these like need for poverty alleviation, job creation, and food security. So the country like India, who are like completely dependent on agricultural activities, and so they need to create the jobs for the most of the population, because there is a cyclic unemployment and seasonal unemployment because of unorganized agricultural sector. So these are the socio-economic factors which are again comes as a challenge in attaining the sustainable agricultural production. And now we are talking about the impact of climate change on agriculture. So the climate risk in BRICS plus region is, if we take the case of India, the impact of paddy yield due to increased CO2 emission and temperature fluctuations. So yeah, of course, in states like Haryana and Punjab, we used to grow a lot of paddy, and not only limited to Haryana and Punjab. Now the West Bengal, the southern part of India, they are like focusing on growing paddy, and paddy is one of the crop which is requires a lot of water. It's a water intensive crop. Apart from that, it releases CO2 while it grows in more in terms of more quantity than other crops. So, and the changes in rainfall pattern and their effects on crop cycles in South Africa and Brazil. If we take the example of South Africa and Brazil, there is rainfall pattern and the effect on crop cycle. So, these are also the impact of climate change. The economic implications, if we look at the economic implications of impact of climate change on agriculture, then it shows that estimated loss of agricultural gross domestic product due to climate change. There is a huge loss on gross domestic product of BRICS plus countries, who are like completely, not completely, but yeah, up to most of the part of their GDP comes from agriculture sector. That's why there is a huge loss, and the rising cost of cultivation and declining productivity. Of course, if we talk about the productivity and the technical efficiency of production in agricultural, sustainable agricultural production, then there is again loss, because we are depriving in terms of utilizing our resources because of the climate change now, because we tried to control the production earlier, but later on we figured that there is a drastic change in climate, and then again we are losing the battlefield in terms of producing sustainable agricultural production. And if we are losing, that means we are losing the technical efficiency for sustainable agricultural production. Then, if we talk about socio-environmental effects, then there's a threat to food security of 1.5 billion population. Like, if we combine the China and the population of China and India, we are the 50% of the world. So I'm most of the time, sometimes I worried that yeah, there's going to be a food security challenge in near future for sure, because if we're not going to adopt the climate friendly sustainable agricultural practices, there will be a problem, and the food security and the rural livelihoods will be in trouble. So the migration pressure due to agricultural distress, of course, like people from countries like India and China are moving towards Europe and UK, US, and other part of the world. So there's a huge pressure on those other countries as well of this migration issue because of the agricultural distress. And if we talk about the innovative practices and technologies, then there's a precision farming. We can apply like GPS or IoT sensors or AI related optimization inputs variable in terms of production. And if we take the example of India, digital soil health card is one of the program conducted by the government of India, but it was a failure now, because they put those cards in some junkyard and they are not utilizing it efficiently. And this was they tried to control again the health of the soil with those digital cards, but it is not efficiently utilized by the district officials, if we talk about in deep down. So the digital agricultural, the leveraging data analytics for yield prediction and risk management, then the role of mobile platforms in reaching out the smallholder farmers, then the sustainable water management also, like countries like South Africa, Brazil, and of course in India as well. The techniques like drip irrigation and rainwater harvesting should be promoted, and water use efficiency in drought-prone areas like Brazil and South Africa. Apart from that, we must encourage farmers to use less water-intensive crops. Then the case study, if we talk about agricultural cost and sustainability in India, the key findings from this research is showing that data envelope analysis, insights on Rabi and Kharif. There are two seasons in India, basically main two seasons of crop production, and efficiency gap shows the best practices for cost reduction. And there is a need of now diversification, crop diversifications from high water intensive crops to less water intensive crops. And then the role of climate adaptation in enhancing agricultural productivity. And the lesson for BRICS Plus is now the potential for scaling sustainable practices across similar agroclimatic zones. Like if we do have similarity among the climatic zones in between the countries, then we should adopt those sustainable agricultural production practices which can help in technology transfer. So opportunities for technology transfer and capacity building can be utilized through sharing sustainable practices among similar agroclimatic zones. Now, the policy implications and collaborative frameworks. If we talk about the strategic recommendation, then there should be an alignment of agricultural policy with climate adaptation goals. Of course, the SDGs should comes in the way of telling farmers about the production practices. So, and they should be incentivized for adopting those sustainable farming practices. And BRICS Plus collaboration is showing that sharing transfer of technology is also one of the best practices for climate resilient agricultural production. So the joint research initiative and funding for sustainable agri-tech innovations should be there. Establishment of a BRICS Plus agricultural innovation fund should be developed for BRICS Plus countries. Then the technology transfer and capacity building is one of the major area. If we talk about the technology and the technology used by China and technology used by India, we are still lagging behind China like more than 25 years, because they are using now the latest advanced sustainable agricultural practices, and we are still stuck with the traditional practices of agricultural production. So I'm not criticizing, but the fact is, like we are facing now the challenges in terms of adopting climate friendly practices. And apart from that, if we goes like this only, I'm not talking about only India, the countries which are not able to adopt those technology related updates, they may create a problem for other neighboring countries as well in the future. So building resilient supply chain and distribution network should be there. And the collaborative platforms, BRICS Plus Forum for knowledge sharing and joint ventures, role of public private partnership should be there, which can be driven by innovation related adoptions. And the pathways of co-development and opportunities ahead. Then if we talk about the strengthening of food security, then enhancing productivity through sustainable intensification can be done. And then addressing nutritional security by diversification of crops. I told you already that if we diversified from high water intensive crops to low water intensive crops, then there will be a solution for utilizing those technologies. And the building of climate resilience, then the integrating climate smart agriculture in national policies, leveraging international climate finance for sustainable projects. And if we talk about the conclusion, then the key takeaway here is like agricultural sustainability is critical for socio-economic development in BRICS Plus, of course, and the climate change possesses a significant risk, but also opportunities for innovation. If we put more efforts in, innovative technologies, adopting innovative technology, which are like more sustainable agricultural production, which are more helpful in sustainable agricultural production, then there should be chances of collaborating and building nice relationship with the neighboring countries in terms of import and export among BRICS Plus countries is vital for enhancing food security and resilience. And the call for action is now to embrace sustainable agricultural practices, foster regional collaboration with the co-development. Thank you. Any questions, please?
Thank you very much. agricultural innovations is very important indeed. That is why I hesitated to stop you with the time limit. Well, dear colleagues, it looks like we are actually on time considering our 30 minutes delay. So it's sharp 2 years, 2 years, 2 hours, luckily. So it's 2 hours exactly, and we have just 1 minute to conclude our session. First of all, thank you very much to our distinguished speakers from different parts of the world. Thank you very much to those who stayed with us until the very end of this session. And I put some takeaways that actually the slide that we were showing in the very beginning, it's still actual that we need to build regional capacity and to foster new innovation funds for development of R&D, educational capacity, and do more project together instead of just talking about this. And of course, their outcomes and takeaways from this session will be formed as a resolution we will send to every speaker. You can add up, and it will be presented to governing groups of Network University BRICS. And hopefully, we will move things forward to have more programs, more joint research, and interdisciplinary innovation results. So we are bringing back this preliminary slide, and we will add up the key takeaways from what we actually discussed within these 2 hours. If there are any short comments, you're welcome to use your microphone. Otherwise, their live streaming will be stopped soon, and the link will be available indeed for every interested party. Okay, there are no comments at the moment. Thank you very much. This applause is for